elated to have you watching and sharing with us in this broadcast. This is our third episode, and we would love for you to subscribe, like, comment, give us all the suggestions that you would like for future episodes in the comment section below. And also be sure to check out the details so you can follow us on all the other platforms. Yeah. All right, Miss Jessica Rabbit, I'll let you get us started today.
Oh, side note, today was a half day, so if y'all heard my son in the background, I apologize. But was it Jazzy, Miss Jazzy? I call her Madam CEO. She comes on to the JJ Vaughn's morning show. She had requested something for the single ladies. So she was like, can you guys give us some advice, as she is another millennial woman, a millennial mom. And I said, she wants to become a millennial wife. So she wanted some, feedback about communication. So what communication skills did we have with our husbands? What did we do to snag them? And just a little tidbits. So we're going to go over that this week.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And we have some origin stories to talk about. We wanted to let you guys know how this all got started, how we became millennial wives in the first place, and how we met our husbands, so that you can get your own spin on, how things could work for you or could not, but some possibilities. So this is how we started out becoming millennial wives from our single days. I'll let you go first, Miss Jessica.
Well, I met my husband in, I guess, the non-traditional way. You don't ever meet a man in the club. I met my husband at what's it called? Hugo's. So it was like a lounge. I met him there. I actually went to school with his sister. So his sister was a year behind me. And we crossed paths several times, but we never ran into each other until she came up to visit. I went out with my friend. She was like, oh, let's go out. We're going to go see Josh and A, and we're going to go just hang out. And who did she bring? Her brother. And that's where I met him. I met him about 19 years ago. So I met him there. Where did you meet your hubby at?
Well, our story is like the weirdest, I think, because I met my husband while visiting family in Alabama and at a cookout. A friend of mine that I had met while I was visiting here introduced me to him. He's her first cousin, and we were at the cookout, and he kind of tried to be nonchalant, oh, oh, that's your friend kind of thing. Nice to meet you. I'm gonna go and hang with the boys or whatever. And I was like, okay, I see. She's like, oh, he's the nicest guy. And I was like, oh, duly noted. Keep that in the back of my mind. Just going about my little lonesome, doing my business, and I kept running into him again. And so we just became friends, just because we ran into each other so much, and we always ran into the same circles. So as we stayed friends for a while, we just got this connection. We had a lot in common, and things just start clicking. Initially, I think maybe the first 2 months or so, we were like, oh no, we're not each other's type or whatever, because I'm from New Jersey, he's from here, and it's like we couldn't see how it would work, but it worked. So out of the box thinking.
Yes. I think that was like my husband and I too, because he was still running his streets, being his little playboy self, and I was on a prowl looking for a husband because I wanted a husband early. And the funny thing is, we met Valentine's Day weekend, and then we didn't see each other again until May. And then we had our first set of twins. We got pregnant with them on Valentine's Day, which is like full circle. And then we got married. We got married in May as well. So it was like those 2 months, I guess, means something special. But we started as friends too. We became more friends before we get into a relationship. And I think that's what kept us going, because we do have a friendship. And I think that's one thing you single ladies need to have a friendship with your husband or with your mate, Because at the end of the day, when all your girlfriends are gone and all his male friends are gone, it's just y'all two.
That's true.
So you have to,
Definitely.
and
And I,
last week,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. And then last week you told me, ain't nothing be stopping the push, you still gonna be getting it on. But I'm like, well, some people don't. So you have to be able to talk to the person. So like you say, you just don't want to all be about sex. You have to have a little friendship there with them, have some stuff in common. But I'm sorry. One thing, we cut each other off all the time. That's what we both have a lot to say.
My husband always says, like, oh, y'all cut each other off all the time because y'all both talk too much. So I'm kind of just like used to it. So it is what it is.
Yes. And y'all like get used to it too. We like, oh, sorry. That's just one thing we do.
But I think it's good to be friends first, because as you are friends, you get to see people in their elements, in their true element. Like, they're not putting on the, what do you call it? The first few months, like you kind of put your fake person on,
Hello,
your
honey.
good guy on, your good girl on. No, it's like, okay, this is my friend, just like me and you. And I'm my real self. I'm authentic because I'm with my friend. So that's what you get to see. And you also get to see how they correspond with their friends. And like when you're hanging with them, and how they correspond with other females. So you kind of get to see, like, okay, this is how he acts if we were together. I know how he would kind of like handle himself, or how she would handle herself. So I think the friendship part is like, it's key. It's really key, because you just never know where you might end up. Even if it doesn't work out, it's just good to know.
That's true. That's true. Seeing them in their natural setting. And then it also lets you see how they do in different scenarios, because if they're not trying to impress you, how they are when they get upset or when they're having a really good time. Does he drink too much? Does he, do things that he's not supposed to be doing? And if someone sometimes, because my husband's he's from the hood. So when a person steps to him, how does he handle that? Is he just ready to fight, or is he able to talk it down with them, or even, be in the same area with a person that they might not like as much? How does he handle himself? So that's really good. So then you get to see all the characteristics of a man that this might be your potential mate. So you're trying to be like, okay, I need him to keep us cool. Is he not going to go off on me? And even with seeing him with his parents and his family, yes, it's like you got to see how they're treating their mother. Are they taking care of their mother? Are they doting on their mother? How they are with their female cousins, and if they have sisters or their siblings and their brothers, how they are interacting with each other. Is it all about me, or is he really family orientated? And if you want a family, or even if you have children before you get married, see how he is with other little kids. I know everybody's like, oh, I don't want to bring my man around, but if this person, if you get to know him, and your children only know him as a friend, see how he interacts. Just little common stuff. Oh, we're gonna meet at the park, or we're gonna go see some movies. Like, do fun little things with them that doesn't make the kids feel like, oh, this is a date. They're getting to know them as well, because you don't want your child to come into it like, I don't like this person. So once y'all become serious friends, like, okay, I can see us going on further, then, I think coordinate that in. You and I both didn't have any children prior, so it was a little easier for us. And then we both chose men that didn't have children. So it's nothing against people that have had children, or marry someone that has children. Sometimes it makes it hard, and sometimes it makes it easier. And my husband was like, I don't care if you had kids or not. I love kids. So I was like, well, that's a good thing. I said, okay, that to me says I can adopt. And I love that, because I always wanted to adopt. So I'm like, that's good. So he says they don't have to be his for him to love them. I'm like, that's a good point, I think, to have.
Right. And I think us meeting our husbands, I don't know how old you were, but I was 20, possibly 24. But just being at that young age, it's a little different. Like, we are part of the Kevin Samuels group. Like, you meet your husband before you have a baby. Like the whole, I guess that's the whole it's like a thing. It's just a fad going around. Like men think you're supposed to meet women early, but I didn't meet my husband. He wasn't totally him like who he is today when I met him. We grew together into a better fit for each other. Like at the time when we met, we had I guess to say the chemistry already. And then far as the aspects of outside of us just having a good relationship and communication, we built on, okay, can you handle taking care of yourself, your business personally, and then we can conjoin. But we grew up together. It wasn't like, I guess you hear a lot now about men being a top provider and then they meet another woman and she's 25 and he's already established. It wasn't in that kind of situation. So it's kind of hard to give you a perspective if you are meeting somebody that young versus meeting somebody once you already established yourself. But I know I do have friends who met their husbands later in life, and it's different, but all in all, the day-to-day parts of it is the same. So
yeah,
I could give a lot of good advice on that even still, because I've been through all the different phases.
No, I've been too. I met my husband when I was 20, so I was young. So we were, I'm 20 years old and guys mature slower than women. So I'm like 20, and then in my mind, I'm about 24, 25. So I'm looking at the future about family and buying a house and having children and doing different things, where he's still like, I'm just getting out of being a teen. What do you mean? You want me to do this already? So I expected so much. I expected adult behavior out of a man child. And I say man child because he just had turned 20. He was just a teenager. You think about 2 years ago, before that, 3 years ago, he was just getting out of high school. So I was expecting him to act like a full-grown man, to know how to conduct himself, to know not to rip and run and do different things. And it was hard. So we grew up a lot together. We started off young, and now it's like, wow, we're going into about being almost together 40 years. So you think about that, it's like, that's crazy. If you start off at 20 and now we're going about to be 40, but we've grown a lot. And I think that helps too, sometimes when you meet the person when you're younger, because you know each other, you know how you grew up together, and you can say, wow, this person really has gotten me there and helped me out. And they see how essential you are. And because some men, I think those established ones, they want the younger ones so they can try to, I think, not control, but like mold them into the woman that they want. Because the younger girls see the money and the cars and it's like, oh, you know how we were back in the day. But
I got a different perspective on that what you just said. Because if you think about it, when we meet them and we're more mature in our 20s, we're trying to mold.
We are okay. Yes, I will agree with that, because if you're used to dealing with older guys, you would expect him to conduct himself with an older guy. And that's what my husband said. He said that was your problem. You're so used to dealing with older men that you wanted me to conduct myself like an older man, but I wasn't there yet.
Right.
So now I'm like looking at the age that I am now, and a few years ago, I'm like, how could these men want to date some young girl? Like, you're 34, 35, 32. You want a little 18, 19-year-old girl for what? We were so immature trying to act like we were grown, but we really didn't know anything. And you guys were giving us life experiences that we probably really shouldn't have been having at that time. And it made you grow up even faster. To now, it's like, I'm done with this. I'm like, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. Like, I dated one guy when I was about 18, 19. And he was older than me. He was in his mid-20s. So I wanted to go, who was it in New York? When they have the boats that come in, the Navy comes in.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It's at the Port of New York. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I wanted to go there. Oh, I already been there, but I haven't been there. That's a nice date night, let's go there, or let's go. I want to take a walk in the city. That's one thing I miss. I love the city in the summertime. And like they have like pop-up festivals or block stuff and the people are out and I just love that whole atmosphere. He didn't want to do that. I'm like, that's not good. That's, like, so then I started seeing things like that. Like, okay, so we don't have a friendship. And I didn't want that. And that's one thing I got with my husband. He'd be like, oh, it would be a nice summer night. Oh, let's go drive up to the city, go take the subway. We're going to go chill in the city tonight. Or let's go down to the shore and just chill, down the shore. We got to do things just as friends. I got to hang out with his boys. His boys didn't mind me being around. I wasn't judgmental of them. I didn't say things to them. They were like, oh, you just like one of us. We were just chilling. They didn't mind having me there. So I appreciated that, because that made me feel like I get to see you with them with you. I know what to expect out of all of you. And then they know what to expect out of me. The same thing.
Right. And I did the same thing with my husband. Like, I really was in a partying stage when I met him. So I kind of like wanted to calm myself down, because I felt like, it's a backstory to this. Right before I met him, I was with somebody, and you know how you get to that point where you just fed up with like meeting the wrong person. So I was just like, let me write this letter to God. And I had gotten so fed up with that person, and then I just wrote this letter, and I spilled my heart out, like, okay, this is what I want, Lord. If you see it in your will, can you find me, or can you give me, or could this person find me, or whatever the case may be? Because at the time, I really didn't know, like, the rules to the whole thing out of the Bible, but I did know that God could provide it. So I just said, let me just write down what I think I want. And then if the Lord sees fit to change something, he'll just change it. Girl, if I didn't meet my husband to the T, if I had that letter right here, you'd be like, dang, he's exactly like the letter. He's exactly like the letter. Minus like one or two things. And the two things, maybe I had like 30, 40 things on the list. But like the two things that he's not are like kind of like things that I've matured to see that I didn't need. So that's how I guess that was God. Like, I don't know if you can meet somebody in two different landscapes like we did. Like, he's from this area of the country and I'm from this other area. Usually that doesn't happen, but it can happen, I think, if you actually do it with some purpose. You have some like perspective of what you want and what you don't want. And you have to be very strategic in your thinking, like outside of the box. That's why I said, like, so you ladies out there, if you are at your wits' end, because I know I was, even at 25, I was like, all right, I don't like girls, but you know what I'm saying? I can't take no much more of this. So when I wrote that letter, I got a lot of good things out of it. And I think that's a good activity, for you guys to do. Try to narrow it down as much as possible, but think long term. Like, what do I need from my kids? If I want kids, what do I want their father to look like? How should he act around my family? All those things, like, take into account and try to pray on it.
Yes, so I agree with you with that, because they always say you just don't ask God for a house, or you just don't ask him for a man, because he can give you a shack and he can give you a shack of a man. But I gave you what you asked for. Write down everything that you want in your life, in your marriage, in the mate, in a house, and let him know everything, that last thing down to a detail. Like, if you want crown molding, or if you want a husband that's going to be there, and if you want to adopt children, he's open to adopting children, open to being a foster parent, open, because some women cannot have natural children. So will he be there and be willing to love that child just as if it was his? Right. And is he willing to go to the fertility clinic with you if you're having issues to get pregnant? Excuse me. Is he going to be there? What about being sick? You might need somebody to take care of you when you get sick later on. And you don't want somebody that's going to say, you know what, I can't take this. So if they take their vows seriously, if they take God seriously, then you go, you know what, this might be the person for me. And like you said, there was two things on your list. It might be some things that you don't see, or he doesn't look the way you thought he was going to look, or things of that nature. But God will give you the man that you really need for you. Because hey, a lot of the guys I dated in the past, they were light skinned, and I ended up with a chocolate man. And my grandmother would say, you need to keep getting them yellow boys. You need to go get you a chocolate man,
I was just
chocolate
about
man.
to say that. The Lord knows what's right.
He does. And I saw that I was getting treated so much better. And I was like, wow, okay. I don't have one that thinks he's about as pretty as me. He all up in the mirror trying to push me out the way. So, I was like, I'm going to put down what was like what I thought I wanted, or the reflection I thought I wanted the picture to look like, to actually what God wanted the picture to be like. And I have a wonderful husband because, like I said, I have children with autism on different levels, especially with Christopher. A lot of men would have left. A lot of men would have said, you know what, I can't deal with this being different, this child not being a typical child, the violence that he has, or, he's testing my manhood and different things like that. A lot of them would have walked out the door, but you have someone that is willing to be there and go to the doctor's appointments and be there with him and invest time in him and want to get him where he needs to go, even though he's different. He said, well, I might be doing things later on than other fathers, but I'm still doing it. And I appreciate that. What about communication? How was the communication when you first met your husband? Like, has it gotten better, or,
Like I said, with the letter thing, I wrote it all down, and like I think maybe about 5 years after we were married, because we got married really quick. We met like August, and we got married in August. So it was like, and I
I thought
mean,
I got married fast, girl. You beat me.
I'm serious. So I think that's another thing. Like when God send you what He's sending you, it's from God, because it's gonna move with His timing. Like it ain't no delayed. It's like you know. But anyway, the communication, it's gotten so much better, but it didn't start off like that. It started off like I could see that he was trying to communicate things differently than me, because like we're from different parts of the world. So of course we don't have like communication barriers, but he started to get me, understand me. And then I started to understand him by being around his circle and just by doing things together. But we have our challenges now. It's getting even better as we grow, because you just know each other. Like sometimes I don't know what he's saying, like accent stuff, and then I'll know what he's saying because I can read the body language, or I've seen him do this before, so he must be asking for this. It's just some stuff is just it's like muscle memory. You just get it. You just did it. So it'll come when it comes.
Yeah.
You can't think too much into it.
No. I understand that too. Even with slang, it was kind of trying to get words. I'm like, okay, I think I know what this means. I think I know what that means. Or he says this or he says that. I remember he was like, oh, you're too nice in the beginning. You're too nice. I'm like, I'm too nice. I like a woman that will cuss me out and tell me off, And I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, I need somebody to cuss me out, I need somebody to cuss me out hard. And I'm like, so one time I did it, and he was like, oh, I was like, so he actually likes that. Okay, so you want me to be ratchet. I'm so used to somebody being, no, you got to be prim and proper. No. So he was like, no, I want you to tell me like it is. So then I learned how to, okay, this is what he wants. I knew the right time to do it, and when times to do it and times not to do it. And then I learned later on in the marriage, because we would go back and forth sometimes, because we were young. You think about it, 2021, you're young.
Right.
And, you see different things of how your parents, so you mimic a lot of things that your parents did if you grew up in a 2-family home. So some things were not healthy, and you didn't learn that out until later on in life. And then some things were. So then we had to really sit down, and we went to marriage counseling so we can learn how to communicate. And then I had to hear what he was saying. So not just take it as an attack. Just because he said, oh, you're doing this, I was like, oh, you're attacking me, attack. No, that's his feelings. And then he had to learn that I was not attacking him. Those are my feelings. And he was supposed to, I guess, acknowledge each other's feelings, say how you really want to say it or how you meant it, even though it came off a little harsh. And then, do it that way. So we learned those communication skills later on. I wish we had that in the beginning. A lot of times like I said, the relationships that you saw, whether it was, if it wasn't your parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, somebody around you that had a, a relationship that lasted, you would see how they did things. And some people were okay with sleeping in separate bedrooms. I'm like, I don't want to sleep in a separate bedroom. I don't want to end up, he's sleeping in the den and I'm sleeping in the bed. I don't want that. I want to be able to lay next to my husband until we're done. Like, I watched my Nana and my pop-up. When he got on hospice, she went and laid in the recliner chair. She was like, well, this is how close as I'm going to be to sleep with him until the end. And that's what she did. She wanted to make sure that he knew that she was there. And I loved that. And I said, because that's what I want to do. I don't want to be in separate rooms, having separate lives, and then we're only coming together for church or a family function. No, I wanted us to really have a life together. I know he has to work, but besides that, I don't want to be, you doing this and you doing that. And then what's going to happen once the kids leave? What are we going to do then? And that, I noticed that too. I don't know if you noticed, from our generation, a lot of our parents are getting divorced at 30, like being married 30 years. I saw that with my parents. And I'm like, y'all can't work this out. Like, I understood some parts of it. And I'm like, but you said for good or for bad, let's make some changes, demand some changes. I just don't want to be like, okay, the kids are gone. There's nothing else. We have nothing else in common. We grew apart. Then let's just leave. To me, that's like a waste of a marriage, because kids still, I want your parents to hear this, in couples, children are still affected by divorce no matter what age they are.
Right.
So you can't say, well, the kids are grown. It's still going to affect them. And my husband said, my father played us because he had us going to therapy, and he had to make us thinking that he was coming back. And girl, he did one of them Aries thing, girl. Yeah, nah, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. And I'm like, oh, I have kids. I could have been home with my kids instead of going to therapy. I don't even live in the house with y'all. So, you doing all this, making us feel like we would come home. And I do appreciate him giving us the therapy outlet. But I think he should have told us in the beginning that there was no reconciliation that was going to happen, so that we would understand, because it affected, I think, my younger two siblings worse. And my sister was willing to go out there and get a job and, do all this other stuff just so my dad to come home. And it didn't. She was like, well, maybe we take them back to Hawaii where they had their honeymoon, or go back to California where they first met. And maybe we can bring them back together that, this can rekindle things. And I felt so sorry for her. And it's like, she was 18 or 19, and it was just not clicking with her. And I felt so bad. And I was, early off in my marriage. So I'm like, dang, if this happened to y'all, am I doomed? And then, my father married us. I think everyone except for two people he married have now gotten divorced. Me and another girl included, like the only two that I don't know. I mean, I think it's like been a couple more since he's gotten to church. I think the one girl got married during the pandemic, and I think they're still doing okay right now. So, but I'm like, dang. I mean, it's just, so that's another communicating with your children, how he communicates with your kids, and kind of father. I mean, I guess it's hard for our husbands, especially we have Black husbands. So they have a lot of the world on us, and our husbands are both chocolate. So, and he said, well, I'm not yellow, but he says I'm yellow to him. He said, y'all look at the world differently because you don't get all the scrutiny that we get.
Oh, I get scrutiny.
But they swear up and down it's not like it is with them.
I'm sure it's not the same as what they deal with, but I deliberately like a chocolate man because I just wanted, well, it wasn't even so much that he was chocolate. It was just the fact that I wanted a Black man because I just felt like I wanted him to understand the things that our kids would go through and have that perspective to give them. And also I look at it like I don't want anybody to pick me based on my complexion. So I'm not gonna pick them based on theirs. And I just want to be attracted to you, whatever color you are, and I want you to be attracted to me, like just the other characteristics, not just my complexion. But it's just natural that people have their little preferences. But for me personally, like I don't have a, it's just like it's gotta be like a, what do you say? Like it's just gotta be your character and the way you carry yourself and how you present is more attractive to me than the actual look, which is weird. Yeah, of course you got to look good, but not necessarily so much the complexion. So, but I was going to bring up something while you were talking about communication.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that you got to look out for, ladies, the single ones, do not change anything about yourself. Like me, I like to change my hair a lot. I like to change my looks a lot because it's just an artistic thing. It's not necessarily like I like one better than the other. I just feel like life is too short to be boring and you got to change and try things and see what looks good and what you like. But I never changed that for a man. Like a lot of men wanted me to stay one way, like the way they met me, I guess. So they want me to stay that one way. And that's how I picked. Like, I'm like, if he wants me to be something that I'm not, then he's not who God has for me. And that's something that I looked out for. Like I had to keep changing I kept being my authentic self so that I wouldn't meet somebody else's husband and versus the one that was for me. And that's something you got to look out for. Don't change anything about yourself. You talk loud. If you like to hang out, if you're very expressive, and he can't handle that, then he ain't your man. He's somebody else's man. Mm-hmm. So go on and do what you got to do. Life's too short because I want mine,
Yes, I agree. Like I always said, me with my makeup, that's me. My husband met me, I was wearing makeup. That was just I'm like, I'm not going to stop. Some men, oh, you don't need to wear all that makeup. No, I know I don't, but I like it. Like you said, to me, that's like an artistic expression. Because my husband actually watched me do it. He was like, wow. So he's like, you're really painting. You're really, it's like, I said, yes, I'm making a masterpiece. I said, you could either, some artists can make a whole bunch of, and some can make a, wow, this is, yes, I know how to enhance and do different things. I said, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel well put together. And I like that he did not try to stop that, which was, I love that because a lot of men, oh, you don't need all that makeup. You don't need all that stuff. Or you don't need all the jewelry or this or that. Or even I have tattoos. You don't need all the tattoos. I'm like, why you got so many tattoos? No, if that's what you want to get, you go ahead and get it. Or even my weight, because my weight fluctuates. I go up and down, up and down. And he's like, well, I like it when, he calls me fluffy. I like it when you're fluffy, don't no man want no bone. Only a dog wants a bone. But I'm like, but he says, but then I want you to feel comfortable in your own skin. So I don't want you, he said, I may like it like that, but I'm going to like you any way that you are. And I want you to be comfortable. And that's another thing I really like. It's like, okay, you're accepting me for me. You're accepting all my flaws, that my weight might go up and down, or, like, I had blonde hair for the longest and I went to red. And then if I want to go to a different color, he has no problem with that. If I wear wigs or weaves, he doesn't have a problem with that. And I love that because, like you said, we grew up in that era where, little Kim and Foxy Brown, everybody was changing their hair all the time. We were changing our hair all the time because that's the era we grew up in. And the clothes and things like that, he doesn't mind. So don't, like you said, don't get somebody that's going to box you in. Because if you feel like you're getting smothered, then it's time for you to say, you know what, I think this needs to end now before we get any further. Because I heard on another podcast, the guy said he was changing himself, but he really wasn't changing for himself. He was changing for someone else. Mm-hmm. And by the time it got to the end of their marriage, he's like, you know what? I did all these things not because I loved you or not because I wanted to. It was just like, you wanted these things. So you wanted me to go get a job here. You wanted me to go do this. You want me to go do that. Then I lost myself within that. And then now you're mad at them, but you made those decisions to do that. So you really have to watch who you're blaming because you're making those changes. So if you see in the beginning, they're like, oh no, you should do this, or oh no, people do it slightly. They go buy you an outfit that they want you to wear. And then all of a sudden you start dressing like that. Or, oh, that lady's hair looks pretty. You should do your hair like that. Or she doesn't have on that much makeup. Maybe you can do a soft glam. You don't have to put all that makeup and, look like you're about to be on RuPaul's drag show. And, yes, I have heard it all. Like, and I'm like, you don't need to wear lashes. I'm like, but lashes sets the whole look off. But it's like, no, they want you to look the way they want. But then, not to say that a husband's cheap, but there's some men out there will make you look like plain Jane and go be out with the movie star. And then you're like, hold up. This man that made me look like the mother of the church. Mm-hmm. And you walking in there like, remember on Soul Food, Bird's husband's ex-girl, coming in looking like that. To think, how you want it to look. And then like, so.
Yeah, that's real. That's really, that's a conversation that's going on a lot in the media. Like they just say that men go to Instagram and find the fantasy versus what is at home. And that's one of my pet peeves. I'm like, look, I'm versatile. I can change. I just know who I am, that I'm just that secure in me that know that even if I take all of this off, I still feel confident. And so I just feel like I want somebody that's that confident about themselves too. And that's just the main thing. Like if you're confident in who you are, you can try different looks, but I don't want to suggest the look. I just want you to like, oh, if I suggest it, you have to like it too. I don't want it to be something that I'm pushing on you. And so that's a big deal, because I noticed that my husband, when we first met, of course, at 25, your style ain't the same as 40. But he had different things that he changed about himself because he felt like it'll mesh better with the way I dress. And I'm like, don't do that. Now that I look back in retrospect, I'm like, no, I don't want you the way you think you should look for me. I want you the way you are, because when they start changing things about themselves, it'd be the littlest things. It'll change their mind state of how they treat you. And if you like the way they are when they initially met you, you don't want them to change little things about themselves, because it'll make them change their core value. Like, they start valuing materialistic things versus valuing who they are. And I just don't want that. So I'm like, go back. Don't change nothing. If I didn't like it then, just ignore that, because I didn't know what I know now. If you change something, then the stuff I love is going to change too.
That's true. Because I remember my husband, it was when the Jim Jones era was first coming out with the belts with the rhinestones and stuff on it and the slimmer jeans, and he wanted to do that. And I was like, go for it. If that's what you want, don't worry about the guys in the hood telling you, oh, you look like you went to George Leslie or Rainbow to get your jeans. And it was funny because we had looked at these pictures and we was like, yo, we thought those were tight, and they're not even tight. Like, those are loose. And it was so funny how they were saying stuff, and then he was like, people will come up to him like, oh, you like these jeans? They don't look too tight. He's like, no, they look nice. So I'm like, you set the dress for them, and you went out and you're your own man, and you didn't have to worry about what nobody else is wearing, and you wanted to set your own style. And I like that. Even now, when he's doing stuff in corporate, he still has to put his little flavor on his thing. So he said, because I want to stand out as an individual and not look like everyone else. And he's always been like that. He doesn't really, like you said, value materialistic things as well. He looked at, when we were looking at buying a house, it was 3 homes that we were looking at. 2 were similar style, and then the one we got. And he was like, well, they're all the same price. And one looks like this and one has like a little bit more than this. And so he goes, well, if you can get the same thing that's a little bit bigger for the same price, then hey, I might as well get this and have enough room, then get something that's a little bit smaller. But then in 4 or 5 years, we're getting ready to move again, because now everybody's on top of each other again. Because having 3 kids and then being adults, they're going to want their own space. So if you get something now, and I was like, okay. But he picked it because you know what? I didn't want to be the one them to say, "Oh, she made you go get this, and she made you go get that kind of car, and she made you go get this." Like during the pandemic year, we lucked up. You know, God blessed us, and we were able to get approved. And I think they were approving a lot of people for a lot of stuff, thinking that they won't get repossessed. So we were able to get a little couple things. I was surprised that it happened. I was like, maybe it's our age now. I don't know. I was like, well, maybe God just said you're ready to do this and you're not going to covet this and covet that, and you'll appreciate it more and take care of it more. Because I remember when we first got together, do you remember that car dealership in East Orange? Just like right before you get to like Orange. And they would always give it. It was like in the corner, and it always had really nice cars. Where they would give anybody a car.
It was on
off of South Orange Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to picture it.
So they approved us for an Infinity. The Q, was it the coupe one? That was back in the day. We left the dealership because we were like, they ain't gonna give us no Infinity. And we took it for a test drive and everything. And we just up and left the guy. The guy was probably like, why did they leave? They were approved. Because I was like, he was like, nah, this is too good to be true. But
wow.
I look at that, like we were so young. I said, but then would we have appreciated it? Would we really, he'd have been doing crazy stuff. And I could see him thinking he's in a music video, hanging out there, and all the girls looking, oh, what kind of car? So it'll probably brought the wrong attention. So me thinking, we did something wrong, but probably God was probably just saying, you know what? I know y'all got approved, but this is not where y'all need, because this might be a breaking point with y'all.
Right.
So we let, and we always laughed about that. There's different things like you said, I don't want a man that's gonna worry more about how his car looks than how his children look. Or, the house needs something to be fixed, but he wants to get a new part for his motorcycle, a new part for his car, some rims. So, so those things you gotta be like, okay, if he's all into everything, he wants his jewelry, his clothes, his car, and not so much worrying about you if you're taken care of, and if he's not willing to
sacrifice.
Give up, sacrifice some stuff for you. Like you say, oh, babe, I like to get my hair done, but I really don't have the money to get it done, or I just need a little extra. If he's huffing and puffing about that and not giving it to you, because my husband will huff and puff, but he'll still give. And it's funny because my girls have learned to just stand there and let him huff and puff. I watched him with his mother, and I was like, hold it. She's letting him puff and puff, but he gave it to her. So I said, I started doing the same thing. Let him huff and puff, complain about it, but then here. So I said, okay, that's what. And then my girls picked up on that real quick. They let him huff and puff, but he still gives. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, that's good. He's a giving person. He's not selfish. So that's nothing. Don't get a selfish person, because you're going to end up by yourself. Or everything's good.
And a lot of those behaviors that you're talking about, they show up in the dating phase as other things. Like it'll be the smallest thing. You'll be like, so yeah, he got a little habit right there. And then you'll be like, oh, it's nothing. Oh, I get over that because he fine. I could deal with that because he could put it down. Those things will be like 10 times bigger in a marriage, because all they do is repeat themselves and grow and grow and grow. Here we got this habit that started off, oh yeah, he don't like to give to his mother to pay bills, and when they're in the house together. Oh, now all of a sudden we got a mortgage, and now I got to figure out, it'll be stuff that is so minuscule in the beginning. Like y'all go out to dinner, he wants you to pay the tip, but he'll pay the tab. He got to let you get something. It'll be just that, and that'll be the thing that'll drive y'all crazy.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind.
Yes, please, because you said the thing about the tip. It's one thing if you go, oh, I'll give the tip since you're paying, if you offer. But if he's like, nah, I'm paying for this, so you better pay for that. Then it's like, so is this how it's going to be when we get married? So what? Since I'm paying for the mortgage, you got to buy the food, the clothes, and all of a sudden, and then you're adding up everything that you're paying, and it's coming out more than the mortgage. You're like, hold up, buddy. Why is it that I get the smaller bills, but all my smaller bills are adding up to be bigger than the bigger bill that you're saying? And then that's not fair That's not fair to the wives, even the girlfriends. Because when you live, some of us, you shack for a little bit. And, to me, I know it's not the biblical way of doing things, but I was
It
reading
happens.
up,
Yeah.
but the Amish do it. What they
Mhm.
do is they allow the kids to live together, and then they put a board in the bed to see if they can even
Oh, yeah.
sleep in the same bed as this person. Are they really compatible? And I really commend that, because you don't know a person until you live together, until you see the little quirks about them, or she doesn't make the bed, or he leaves a pile of clothes over there, like your mother didn't beat you for not putting your clothes away. Or if both of y'all are messy, who is going to be the one that's going to finally say, okay, let's clean it up? Because sometimes you get two messy people, and then it's like, okay, now we got two messy people, and then we got messy kids, and everybody's just messy. Or then you might have a clean freak and a messy person. So can you deal with this person if they're messy? Are you going to get mad at picking up behind them and continue to picking up behind them? So little things that you have to see, because you go to a person's house and they're going to keep it nice and clean because, oh, I know he's going to come over. It's a surprise visits, those weekend visits that it's like, oh, wow, so this is how she is, or this is how he is, or he smells like cheese and sour cream, and oh, she's a little funky this morning. So when you get to know the person, you get to see everything about them. So I think in the relationship, especially being older, be as transparent as possible.
Right.
Because if not, it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah. You got to swallow a lot of stuff anyway. And you just don't
Yes.
want it to be something that you knew about from the beginning that you got to swallow, because that's going to eat at your conscience. You're going to be like, man, I knew this. I
Yes.
knew this already. Why did I sign up? So I just rather you figure out who you want to be with, be your authentic self when you're with them. Let them be their authentic self. That way you can cut ties if it doesn't work, or you can figure out what you're willing to deal with. Get to know yourself first and let them get to know you at the same rate. And don't jump. Just give time so you can see them in different settings and get to know them in different atmospheres. Get to know them when they're broke. Get to know them when they got a lot of money, how they act when they in sick, when they got a pain, an ailment, when they hungry, all kinds of settings. You got to get to know them, because a lot of that will be the things that set you off in a marriage. And I think my husband and I, we've grown together. Like all our pet peeves, even he says it, he's like, the little things that I used to bother me don't bother me anymore. They become things that you like, okay, this makes her. I could pick up her little, like he says, I never screw on tops all the way. I never close anything tight enough. That annoys him. Like I would leave the milk like not screwed on tight, and then it'll spill a little. And I found I didn't like how he left the covers on the floor. Like when he kicks his covers off, he don't like the covers on his feet. He'll let the covers hit the floor. I didn't like anything on my bed on the floor ever. So
No, yes.
so it's just little things like that. He'll be like, I'm over that. And he doesn't even do it anymore. Look, he just automatically picked up that I didn't like it, and he changed on his own. Not because I told him about it, but he changed on his own. And you can't change anybody. So you gotta just let them know about what you don't like. If they decide to change it, let them change it. But if they don't decide to change it, tick that off. All right, he's not changing that little thing. He's not changing this little thing. And they start to add up, and the pros and the cons, you just make decisions. But you can't get caught in your emotions. You got to really be strategic about it and talk to God about it. So
Yes.
that was a major things.
I mean, I think so too, especially the sick part, because we broke up when he was sick the first time. He told me, I can't take this, because I wanted to take care of him, and he wanted his mother. I'm like, I can take care of you. I'm your girl. Da, da, da. So he was like, I can't deal with this. You want me to go out there and just die? It's over. So then when he got better, and he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. And then, so now I know you're a big baby. When you get sick, you whine and you cry. So I know, okay, you need that motherly touch. And then when I took care of him, and he said, and I rubbed his head, he said, oh, That's how my mom rose my head and made me feel so comfortable. So I started laughing. So I said, see, I can take care of you. You could be felt nurtured with me. I'm not your mother. I do things your mama can't do. So you better pick one. But I agree with you, because
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know one thing that let me know my husband was the right person. It's the funniest thing. I used to have a sleep apnea deal going on in my early 20s, and I think I was maybe 35 or so when it switched. Things changed. Look, I could sleep through World War III, y'all. I could just be like, somebody could be breaking in a house and I would just be knocked out. I wouldn't hear nothing. So, so that just bothered him so much. And I couldn't find an alarm clock because no alarm clock would wake me up. The only thing that would wake me up is if you call my name. You would have to say my name, or it would have to be certain songs, like where they were talking. I couldn't wake up from alarms. But anyway, I had this really good job, and he was like so excited for me. We didn't live together at the time. And my alarm clock was going off. Like, he worked the night shift, I worked the morning. So he happened to be getting off work and he saw my car was in my driveway. And he's like, this girl is about to miss work. So he panicked. Y'all, he ran to my window and knocked on my window, calling my name until I woke up so I wouldn't lose the job. I was like, this is my husband.
Yeah,
he just woke me up. He couldn't let me sleep. And it was like my first week at this new job. So that was one of the things, like, he didn't judge me for it because I had told him, like, I do have a sleeping problem. I've always had it since I was a kid, and I really don't want to lose this job. But he really looked out for me. He always like thought ahead of things. And so that was just something that, like, okay, God, you're trying to show me, okay, he's responsible. So keep those things in mind, ladies.
Yes. I think about that with my husband too, because I have anxiety issues, especially with thunderstorms. I do not like the sound of thunder. It takes me back, and I have panic attacks. And he sat there with me through one storm, and he really, really like comforted me and made sure I was okay. And then I remember he wanted to go somewhere. He was like, all right, it's going to storm. I need you to go home to your parents and spend the night at your parents' house because I ain't going to be around. And you need to be in a safe environment so you're not going to go off and have a panic attack and end up hurting yourself. Or even with my heart condition, he was like, you okay? He started noticing the different things about me and making sure I'm okay. He said, you don't look like you're breathing well, or you're all right. So I was like, you're very tentative. You want to make sure we're okay. And I was like, okay, this is husband, like you said, husband quality. This is somebody that really cares about me for me. He's like, I don't want nothing to happen to you. I don't want you to die. And this, like, even with my Apple Watch now, if he gets an alert, you all right? Your watch says something's going on with your heart. What's going on? Did you drink some water? Drink some water. Sit down. Calm down. What you doing? So I'm appreciative of that. Because even if he's in a meeting, he'll send me a text message like, what's going on with your heart? So I'm like, okay, you really do care. It's not just you're there using me for the maid and the cook and to take care of your kids and different things like that. How it does feel sometimes, but no, they really care. If you have a good one and care. So I think we use the communication, write those notes and those letters and take everything, put it together, and then learn from your past relationships. Take the good. You know what you want. You know what you don't want.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
No matter what age you are, 39, 40, 43, 42, 54. My cousin got married in her late 50s, but she still did good.
I always think about my great grandma. She was married twice after she turned 60. Like, she never stopped. She always had her man. Said she always married him. And so I don't know, they would say like a Black Widow characteristic, but no, she really took the first one. They went the long haul, but she always kept her somebody. So don't keep hope alive. And she was happy until she left here. And it's all about perspective. It's all about an open mind. It's all about what you put into it. And so just be strategic and pray on it, and God will send you who you want. That's what I believe. Yes.
He will. If you ask.
Right. You will receive.
Yes. It says it right there in the book.
That's right. Right. And even if you don't, as far as your religion or whatever, I think that it just works out if you're a good person and you're putting out the good energy that you want, you're going to get it back. So I think that's just the rule of thumb in general.
Yeah.
But we're so glad that you joined us today on this podcast episode. Keep us in mind when you think of some more topics that you would like to discuss or have discussed. And like and subscribe. And also follow us on TikTok. Same names. Follow our other podcast, the Soul Healer Podcast.
Yes.
Miss Jessica Rabbit and Rika Davis. And also follow my vlogging channel. And Jessica Rabbit has a vlogging channel under the same name. But we'll leave all the details below so you can get to know us more on a personal level. And you can have some more things that we can dialogue about. But we thank you so much for joining us. And do you have any parting words?
Enjoy your weekend. Make the best out of it. I hope it's a great weekend for everyone. And don't get upset over the minor things. Like Ari's husband said, don't major in those minors. So let's make a good one.
That's a good one.
Yes.
And also, look out for the next episode on Friday. That's the main thing that you need to look out for. Yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed their Valentine's Day. We'll see you next time.
Bye.